Hey, remember when you were a little kid and someone would say something nice about the picture you just brought home from kindergarten? That was a great feeling, wasn't it? And God knows that was an important part of your early development. And I'm sure, as any psychiatrist would tell you, was a great foundation for your future self confidence. But if you're honest with yourself and think back to some of the most valuable lessons you ever learned, and more importantly, retained, it was when someone you respected corrected you and told you that the way you were doing something was wrong. And even more valuable was if they told you the right way to do it so you didn't keep making the same mistake over and over again. Well, now you're all grown up, and it's time to apply some of those lessons to your photography. Having your parents or friends tell you how great your pictures are is really nice, but unfortunately, it has zero value when it comes to improving your pictures. How do I know that? Because after years of being in this business, I know that the key to memorable images is being more critical of myself than anyone could ever imagine being of me. In other words, if it gets past me, the chances are it's going to impress my audience. That's not to be confused with somebody not liking my pictures. That's their prerogative. That's an opinion. But it does pay to elevate your standards to a degree that sloppy, amateurish mistakes are not going to be found in your images and become the reason people overlook your work. You want some examples of what I'm talking about? Well, those would include inaccurate focus, distracting elements or backgrounds, crooked horizon lines, that's just about the worst, annoying tangents, for me personally, the worst, and of course, poor exposure. Before you worry about becoming the next superstar artist, you should become a perfectionist regarding all things that define a skilled technician. Here's something I bet you've seen. You know, when you go to a crafts fair and there's always 50 booths with people making pottery, you can always find a couple of people who are trying to make you believe that their warped, collapsed bowl was intentional. No, it wasn't. They screwed up either when forming the piece or it collapsed when it went into the kiln. Either way, their laziness made them think that with the right amount of BS, they could convince you that the shape was intentional and some new direction of artistic exploration. It's always better to have 5 outstanding pieces than 20 that look like a child was involved. I can assure you, any photographer you're going to admire has thrown out lots and lots of pictures that a mediocre shooter would be glad to call their own. As a creative person looking to expand your horizons, you must embrace criticism as the valuable tool it is. And being self critical is beyond important when it comes to producing memorable images. You should also put this into practice even before you pick up the camera, tossing ideas around in your head, forcing yourself to refine what you're going after so that by the time you do start shooting, it's going to seem like you're creating something that almost already exists. Now, how do you get yourself to start thinking this way? Well, honestly, by nature, I'm a self critical person. But I was also smart enough to learn from demanding clients and extract the valuable lessons from them instead of wallowing in self pity. When I look back at some of the most demanding clients I ever worked with, it was their pictures that more often than not wound up in my portfolio. For instance, I once had an art director, a regular client, who would show up at the studio in the morning, and at our initial meeting, his comment would always be the same to me. You know, George, I just want it to be a nice picture, like what you always deliver. He almost never had a layout beyond telling me if it was a vertical or a horizontal. And who could complain about that kind of a day? I mean, it was hardly what I would call high stress. And as always, his pictures did turn out great. But that was because I set a very high standard for myself and I wouldn't let any crap go out of my studio. On the opposite end of the spectrum would be the art director who would show up with layouts so fine tuned that they were almost the finished product. These people would know exactly what they wanted and expected out of me and had picked me to do their job because they knew for that particular shoot I was the right person. They had, with their creative team, put down in a comp what they had determined was going to satisfy the client, get the point across, and sell the product. Now they were expecting me to use my skill, earn my money, and take their concept to the next level, interpreting photographically their original vision. This should make perfect sense to you. The way to become a photographer who can charge more for his talent is to become the photographer who will add something to the project. Figure it out. Would you pay someone more money if the end result looked like something you could pay someone less money for? Of course not. You should always be striving to be that person who adds something that people can identify with. This in turn will make you stand out because not only will your pictures be better, but hopefully you will begin to create an identifiable look. And one of the most important ways to make this happen is by being hard on yourself. Keep in mind it's not about you, it's about your pictures. Develop a tough skin, don't take things personally, and learn from constructive criticism. Remember, if your pictures look like everyone else's pictures, then you'll be competing with everyone else.